Hello again to this video clip series I'm calling My Journey to God in a Very Secularized World. This should be video clip number 31. Continuing again on this discernment in this period of great confusion. I found a few quotes, for example, from Cardinal Ratzinger, for example, in 1986. He said, "Only what is true can ultimately be pastoral." And this was on his letter to the bishops of the Catholic Church on the pastoral care of homosexual persons. So many people today want to just say, do whatever you want, and that's love. But if it's not true, in the end, it will do great harm to those who want to put into practice homosexuality. It will do great harm to them. For love of them, Jesus gave us the 10 Commandments, even though sometimes they're difficult to live. And so I repeat this phrase of Cardinal Ratzinger, 1986. He says, "Only what is true can ultimately be pastoral." The other is false pastoral, giving them bad advice that hurts them later. And I had talked about, I'll talk about also this in a future video clip. I will talk about an article that I wrote with the title, "Those Who Open Their Eyes Are Labeled Conspiracy Theorists." Because in that article, just to give you a little hint right now as we go on, Freemasonry strongly promotes politically correctness, and thus conspiracy theorists are seen as out of touch with reality and highly ridiculed. Thus, few open their eyes to the fact that for years, Freemasonry, guided by its Grand Master, who is guided by Satan, have been working to lead the world to the worst dictatorship in the history of the world, the Great Reset, which in the end, with the help of the one world religion headed by the false prophet, will lead as many people as possible to adore the Antichrist. And you can read this in the Apocalypse, such as chapter 13. If one, the book of Revelation rather, if one overcomes the great pressure to be politically correct and human respect, one quickly begins to put the pieces of the puzzle together and to understand the motives for what is going on in the brainwashing of the highly controlled mainstream media. Very often, the angel of light uses distractions of offering good things and 95% of the truth. Even canonizing great saints, so that Cardinal Bergoglio could say, "I'm with them because I canonize saints. I'm also a saint. Whatever I say is true. Since they are true, we are all true," and so on. It's interesting, though, that in a sneaky way they suspended the canonization process of Fulton Sheen. I think because he said things too clearly, even about how the strategy of the Antichrist in the future. And in this way, canonizing people is kind of to insinuate all is orthodox, while inserting and promoting very grave errors in doctrine, such as, take a look at a few years ago, the Amazon Synod, which will cause great damage, as does a few drops of poison in a nice glass of wine. We're living in a world more full of falsehoods than ever before. Beautiful, deadly lies from the father of lies, presented as if they were the truth. Hidden, destructive deceptions, such as the devil, hell, and sin no longer exist. The great majority of the pastors today are all dumb dogs. They cannot bark, as we read in Isaiah 56:10. And thus do not warn the sheep of the very sly wolf Satan and his very numerous collaborators. These poor pastors who seek to please men instead of God offer misguided compassion and half-truths, which are worse than lies, especially to speak only about mercy without, as Jesus added, "Go and sin no more." Our Lady continually asks us to pray for priests and bishops. In Amoris Laetitia and the two preceding synods, there was no mention or concern of the great harm done to children of separated parents, personal responsibility. There was nothing, but only the desire of the adults. What kind of a pastoral thing is that? You don't care about the kids, just what the desires of the adults. People don't open their eyes. Now in the Spirit, now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times, this is from Timothy, 1 Timothy, now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart from the faith by giving heed to deceitful spirits and doctrines and demons. And I might add here, you might say Amazon Synod, or of witch doctors from the Amazon, or of recently endorsed priests and bishops who promote in a shrewd, sly way homosexual unions, and that the Eucharist is only a symbol, as the Protestants believe. We are truly in the period of the great apostasy before the manifestations of the Antichrist, written about by St. Paul, 2 Thessalonians 2:3. The church, the body of Christ, will be crucified. Read this in the Catechism of John Paul II, paragraphs 675 to 677. In this period of the Great Tribulation, Matthew 24:21. But in the end, Our Lady says, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. Fatima, 1970, to prepare for the second coming of her Son, Jesus Christ. On November 13th, 2019, at our monthly meetings in the diocese, every month there's a meeting with all the priests of the diocese, with the bishop and so on. In our permanent formation of priests, we poor priests in Perugia, Italy, listened to a priest called Father Giuliano Zanchi from the Diocese of Bergamo, Italy, who said to us that we must resign ourselves to the mentality of the world, of cohabitation of unmarried couples, and those who do not do this have a psychological and moral problem. So the Orthodox priests have a psychological and moral problem. Jesus had a psychological problem, according to him. Cardinal Bassetti, who was the president of the Episcopal Conference of Italy, was not happy when I offered my comments, saying, I ask myself if God gave us the 10 Commandments for our true good or our evil. Do we trust God or do we trust ourselves? Has human nature changed in history, and thus we must change the 10 Commandments? It comes to mind, I continue to say to the priest there in that meeting, it comes to mind the Gospel of Mark chapter 10. The words of the apostles were amazed and exceedingly astonished by the words of Jesus, which seemed too demanding. At that point, Jesus did not offer compromises with the mentality of the world, but rather said, for God, all is possible, but for man, nothing is possible. And even in the Gospel of John, chapter 6, when many disciples went away due to Jesus' teaching on the Eucharist, Jesus was even ready to lose not only the disciples who went, but even his apostles, when he said to them, do you leave me too? You can find more details, but I'll talk about this in a later video clip in my article called Priests Systematically Brainwashed. I'll end this video clip here. May God bless you and Mary guide you.